I'm Jacob Hummer, and this is database final thing project whatever that I did. So I wanted to make this Hacker News thing. You got posts, and each one of these posts has comments. So if we go to the actual website, so like here, this is a post that has a link to a website. The content, it doesn't actually have content in and of itself, and then it has comments, or it shows a little count, and then there are threads like this with people posting text. Seemed like a relatively straightforward thing to do. It's got an account system, so you log in order to post. I figured these were the three big ones, and then it's also got these two, which are a little bit like they're not as big in your face. Anyway, implementation. So what I did is I got this. I get this is an ER diagram, but it looks a little different to the ones that we did in class. This is like the one that comes up when you search for it. But you got your reports and favorites, which just link to the comments and submissions that you do. And the big ones are the submission, which has all the metadata, and then it's tied to a bunch of comments, and the comments can be tied to other comments. But I made it so that every single comment always has, like, it's tracking what submission, so you don't have to track back, get the parent, and then get the parent, and then get the parent. It just always knows the submission, and then the parent could be null if it's the root comment. And then upvotes I did into two separate tables. Originally, they were going to be a single table where it would have like upvote, submission possibly null, and comment possibly null. And then a user can upvote any number of submissions and any number of comments. But I split them because it made better TypeScript sense when you do the ORM autocomplete to have to have a submission upvote. That way you could do dot submission and dot comment without needing to check for if one is null, the other should exist, and if the other one exists, then this one should be null, and they can't both exist and they can't both be null. Instead of having to do that, I separated them so that the types were like better programmatically in the interface. Anyway, I modeled these in Prisma, which is this thing. They've got an ORM system where it gives you code that looks like this, where you can do prisma.tablename.create.delete.find and then you can skip, take, where, order by, all the SQL things in a nice interface that makes it so you get autocomplete. You can do the control space. So like over here, if I were to uh, control space, you'll see I get IntelliSense here as soon as it loads. Um, which I wish it would. We'll come back to that in 20 seconds once it's loaded. Anyway, you get IntelliSense, so you can do the control space to do that. Here's how I defined all the Prisma stuff. You go here, here. So you got your user, and then they let you define arrays, and then they will automatically reflect the other property on the thing, whatever. Anyway, it automatically generated those things. So I didn't even have to think about the relation stuff and whatnot. But these let you do where you get a user and it tracks the user ID, which is really nice. So you can do dot user in code instead of needing to fetch the user ID and then manually join it with the other one. So this is sort of like a join thing that lets you join. It doesn't join it right here because this is the schema, obviously, but it lets you join stuff. And then down here, parent and then children. I didn't use children, but I just put it in there. And here again, the report reflects on the other report down here because originally I didn't have that. So it automatically, when you do Prisma format, it will do that. So like here, if I do, I think it'll say, yeah. And then, so if you had anything that was one-sided, it would automatically generate the other side. Anyway, here, let me do IntelliSense again. Yeah, so you get all of the options like password, reports, submissions, upvoted comments, etc. In here, which is really nice. So then you can do like this existing upvote dot whatever, and it'll give you all the properties right then and there. It's just really useful to have that level of integration with the language and the database, I've found. Anyway, so I use Prisma, and then I use Next.js to do all of this stuff where you do the header, the divs, the navs, and all that. You separate it out into components in separate functions that take parameters, and then they return HTML, which is really nice. So I did that. Um, and then here's another example. And then I did 13,000 comments. I did the comments as the big one. I was originally going to do submissions, but it kept taking hours to update them, and I didn't want to deal with that at the time. So I just did 4,000 and 13,000 these comments. So the CSV originally had, um, if this will load, yeah. So the CSV originally had a number of comments right here, this number of comments. So I just created comment 1, comment 2. So here's the dev thing. So like one comment. This one, yeah, I have the thing so it compiles on the fly and whatnot. Very cool. Thank you, Next.js. And then it'll load after it compiles all the fancy stuff. It'll give me this, but then I have just comment 1, and then I automatically generated a bunch of users. In fact, I can check how many users, I think it was. Yeah, so I have 544 unique users, and this is the portal thing to the Vercel Postgres that's hosted here, and it's got the stuff that you paste into your editor so that you can see it and all that. That's very cool. But I got a lot of them, and then demo. Yep. So here I can log in. And this dev URL is using the same URL or the same this stuff that the production one, this one is using, because this one. So like if I make an edit on here, uh, yep. So I signed in. Now I see that I have test one. So here's the view my user page. I don't have any favorites. I don't have any karma because I haven't made any posts. But back here, I can report and favorite. And these buttons, they do the thing. They don't refresh the page or do anything like that. But now if I go to here to report, I can see here that I did it. I'm user ID 1 in user here, and they're all password. But user ID 1 made a report, and I don't have any way to view this. There's no admin panel yet, but you can see how this here has a submission ID but no comment ID. This is the other thing I wanted to bring up. So I've got submission upvote and comment upvote. Yeah, I think I already mentioned this, but here I've got submission ID and comment ID, so you need to check like, oh, it didn't report a comment, but it did report a submission. They can't both be null. One of them has to be set, but they can't both be set. So it might have been easier had I done the comment upvote, submission upvote thing, but I didn't because this is used so infrequently. Um, anyway, so I can reply, blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about that. Submit, and then if I refresh, it'll show up. Or no. Am I logged in? Come on, show up, please. Let me try. Let me hang on. It does work. Believe me, I tried it. Reply. Yeah, there. Boom. Look at that. Fantastic. That's amazing that it works. I didn't get it to do the refresh because I'm using fancy actions. So like, let me show you what I mean. So right here, I'm able to define HTML that I'm returning to the user, and I'm also able to define an on-click handler, which calls back to the server that then uses the server-side session information, the server-side database API. This isn't running on the client, but it's all in the on-click handler, which is really, really cool, right? Because you don't have to write like a server API you just do on-click use server, and you don't need anything in this API thing. There's this decay submission score that I have set up to where I separate upvotes and score so that it has a certain number of associated upvotes that users have upvoted it, but there's also an independent score. So whenever somebody upvotes it, it adds one, but then every 24 hours, which was the minimum repeating time that I could get on the free tier of Vercel for free, because this is all being hosted right here in Vercel with their dashboard and the cron jobs and all that. Anyway, um, I set it up so it'll run this thing every time, every day at 5 a.m. And that'll do that, and it'll decay the score by zero 0.5. And I got this. Look at this. This is another thing with Prisma. You get the whole multiply, so you can do it all in one atomic transaction, which is really cool. Here's some other queries. This is a really messy query that I could clean up. See how it's like I've got one query here and one query here and one query here, and I'm mapping and looping, but it's only um, the one item submission that it's just recursing through all of the comments. So it's issuing a query for every single comment, which actually multiple queries. That's not good, but I don't have enough impractical that you'll reach a certain number of comments. And also, yes, I could go back and clean this up. It's not clean now. It works, and I got all the IntelliSense and but like look how it all meshes together in here. Nice code, even though it's not very performant in this particular case. However, there are other queries that I thought were cool. So like here, that's just a basic create. Here, take 30, and then here I have the slash page number. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. So if I go back here, you'll see I've got 30 items, but I can do /2, and that'll do an offset of 30, so it'll show me 31 to 60, and all of the other ones, and they're sorted by score. So this one has one upvote, and it was so recent that it's still at one score instead of 0.5 score, and so on. You can see the use. I don't have any favorites. You can submit to. There's a submit page where you enter a title and a URL, and it'll show up. Um, sure, that one. And whoops. Anyway, I'll fix that before submitting it. I did something on the dev version. Anyway, uh, you can do that. That stuff. The prototype works. Like it does do the thing. It's just you'll see the fancy code. There's a lot of it. Also, I learned about salting and hashing passwords. That's another thing I wanted to bring up. There's a computer file password hashing. There's this one. This video really good. But Tom Scott here goes on to describe how to properly salt and hash your passwords. I couldn't get this to work because bcrypt doesn't work on Vercel's edge environment. Speaking of Vercel, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. This is all using fancy industry tooling. ORMs are great. Vercel is great. They let you do this cool stuff. But this project right here is cool because it's using standard industry tooling like Vercel, like React, like Next.js, like Prisma, and you don't need to mess with all the third normal form raw SQL. You don't need to parse the SQL response into numbers and whatnot. You just get the stuff with the fancy with this Prisma API to just find the first one where that matches, and then return all that stuff. you get to take. You get to specify. Look at this. This is cool. You get to include certain properties from the join because this is under like fancy join or where it's combining a bunch of stuff due to the user ID, right? And I get to select just the username. I don't need anything else. I don't need anything from the upvotes or anything from the comments because I just need to find their length right here. I just need a comment count and upvote count. Look at that. That's pretty cool. This is where I do this like submission this component. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Wow, this is also cool. I'm running out of time. I don't know how long this presentation is supposed to be, but that's that. I learned about Prisma a lot. I really, really like. You don't have to mess with SQL very much at all, like literally at all. You just define a schema. It generates the types. You do this gets you the IntelliSense like that. You do the seed. I got the seed code. This is all very inefficient, but you read the CSV. Do the just create dummy username and password for anything that doesn't exist, and then create a bunch of dummy comments to show up like here, where it's got the WASDA plus these two Phyllis person. But this Phyllis person is posted whatever. They got no favorites because nobody has any favorites. But you could sign in as this person, blah blah blah. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing I want to mention is that difficulty stuff. So like getting Tailwind CSS, which is this stuff that was challenging to get that to work. And then Next.js server actions, this use server. It takes a while to wrap your head around because you're writing client-side code out here, and then you get to just use server and you're writing server-side code in here. But you're also writing server-side code here that runs once to generate the HTML that then runs on the client. But once you wrap your head around that this runs on the server, that's very helpful. It's not intuitive, but it is helpful to have like server, client, server, all that distinction. There's components here that use this use client, which means that all of this code runs on the client. So this state is all client side, not server side. Um, all of these like conventions and where you like this whatever, but like this cool. I had difficulty. I had to learn that. Um, Basically, just getting the environment set up and learning how to use these tools that are new was very like you had to do it and learn about it and be like, what's that? And Google that and all that. So yeah, I learned about that. Cool. Very, yeah, good. Yeah.